Hidely ho, neighborinos! Today we're going to be hacking the Wunderlist new tab extension for Google Chrome. I'm on the page now in the Google Web Store where you can get the Wunderlist new tab extension. You'll need to download this first to actually do this. As we can see from these screenshots, it is rather dull. What you do is it says hello your name, you put in a to-do, then you click the to-do and it makes a little ping sound, and then you've done your to-do, and it replaces what you normally have in Chrome for the new tab page, if that wasn't obvious already. So here's what we're going to try and get it to. So if you look at that now, we have the list, we have an icon where you have your name, we have something that says Love Wunderlist, this little box over here which I think opens the apps for Google Chrome, which I've never used. And you can't change the background. Well, you can change the background, but you can only change it to the preset Wunderlist backgrounds, which you have to then pay for to change other ones, which is bullshit. So we're going to do this. This is how I currently have mine set up. A few things that have changed. Number one, I've moved the list way over to the left of the screen. I have added this quote section here. So every time we refresh the page, there is a new quote that I've got, a sort of JSON file with a load of quotes that I've got from various books and what have you, that loads up there. Under this is something from the Stoics, the philosophers. They say you should always be thinking about death. So I figured out when I'm going to die, and I put down this, which gives me the number of days I have remaining to live, which is very morbid, but the Stoics recommend it. Then over on the right, I have a whole list of sort of bookmarks, because I don't like the bookmarks in Google Chrome, because you have to either have them all the way down or all the way up, and they don't open automatically. You don't have them pop down on the new tab, which is what I would do. So I've just put some bookmarks there. I've got a thing here, another link at the bottom of the right screen where you can review your long-term goals, which is like a link to an Evernote page. And then obviously we've got the to-dos. I've also changed something which I think is 1,000 times better than the original. Remember, the original, when you've done your to-do, it goes ping, which is really boring. So I've changed it to this. Great success. Which is from Borat. So this is brilliant. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the very, very first thing we are going to need to do is add this extension to Chrome. Click Add Extension. It won't take very long, and suddenly we have the extension added. I'm going to hide it in the Chrome menu. Then we go to this page, which is Chrome. Here we are. Chrome : / extensions. Refresh. And you should have the Wunderlist new tab down here. But one thing we do have to do is make sure that up the top here we have developer mode checked on. Once we're in the new tab page, we're going to look at the ID, which is I've selected here. You're going to need this because the way we're going to get to the file is we go to Finder, press Command-Shift-G, then we're going to paste in this path, which I have here, which will be in the description, which is Library Application Support Google Chrome Default Extensions, and then the app ID, which could be very well different for your version. So we'll paste all that, go there, and we will be in the file. This little bit here is the actual app. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it and I'm going to move it over to just the Google folder, call it Wunderlist or Wonder or something like that. Then we're going to start editing the files that are in here. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do, which can be very, 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 very easy in terms of hacking this little application, is we are going to change the ting sound from that to great success, the Borat thing. I will put that file in the GitHub so you can just download it and swap out the file. But you could easily make your own using a program like Audacity. The only thing that's odd is it has to be a .ogg file. And because we're not going into the code to change this particular bit, all we need to do is rename it exactly the same. It's going to be WL3-complete.ogg. So I have that file there. quickly copy it over to there. That's done. The thing is, this sound won't actually work until we reload the application in Google Chrome, which we're not going to do yet because there's no real point. We'll do it when we get around to doing it. The next change we're going to make also requires no coding experience and is really just another quick file swap. So go to the Finder, go to the Wunderlist folder that we've been working in, and you'll find there is a folder called Backgrounds, which, surprise, surprise, has backgrounds in it, which surprised me. So they have a number of them, which are, numbered. The one I have selected currently is 25. Now, the way Wunderlist actually works this out and tells you what background to show is it depends on what you have set on the actual app itself. So whether you have that on the phone or whether you have the actual app on the computer as opposed to being in Google Chrome. So what it stands to reason is that if we swap out the file we currently have selected with a new background, it will display the new background. So let's do that. I have 25 selected, so I'm getting rid of that. Here's a background I created earlier. We're going to pop that in there. And of course, we need to rename it 25.jpg. And now, when we reload the application, the actual new tab extension, we will find that this is actually, the changes have been made. So we're going to do that now. Adding the extension to Google Chrome couldn't be simpler. Go to the extensions page in Google Chrome again and click on Load Unpacked Extension, but make sure you have developer mode checked. Click Load it Unpacked, navigate to that folder we're working in, we're calling it Wunder, select. I would refresh this to make sure it works. There we go. It's back. We'll have to re-sign in again. Once you're signed in, you will see that the changes you've made have now been affected. All we now have to do is test if the sound works. We can see the backgrounds change, so let's see if that sound works.
A great success!
It works! Next, we're going to move the main actual app, the to-do list itself, we are going to move that from the center of the screen to be more over towards the left. To do this, we're going to now have to start getting to some of the code. So here we go. In the CSS folder of Wunderlist, you're going to see something called app.css. We're going to open this with our text editor of choice. For me, that's Atom. And we're going to go down to the wrapper class. The wrapper class has a number of things in there. The most important one we're looking at is margin 0 auto. For those of you who don't really know CSS, margin has a number of different things it can do. If we have one argument passed to it, for example, if we only had 0 past the margin, that would mean the margin outside of a div, which is an element in CSS, would be the same across the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. If we had 2 arguments, which is what we have here, or parameters, the first parameter relates to the top and the bottom. So here we have no margin on the top and no margin on the bottom. The auto relates to the sides, which means maximize the margin to push the div into the center. Well, that's how I think about it anyway. But what we can also do is we can have 4 arguments. For the first argument, it relates to the top. The second relates to the side, the right side, and then the bottom is the third argument. And then, oh my God, you guessed it, the left is the last argument. So that's what we're going to do. The simplest way to make this app move over here to the left is we're going to say 0 margin, 0 margin, 0 margin. And we're going to throw in a curveball. We're going to say, I don't know, 60 pixels. We'll save that. And now, refresh the page. We don't have to reload the application, it will just refresh. We've now moved the actual list over to the side. And the original reason I did this was because I developed custom backgrounds in Photoshop so I could have other things going off on the side of the screen there. And the next things we're going to do, get rid of this little logo here. So, find out where it is, right click, inspect. Brings us up to a div class called navleft, brings us straight to that link, and we're going to get rid of it. So go to your text editor of choice. You need to go to templates and then index.html. That's the actual template we're going to edit. Then we're going to find that nav left. So nav left, there we go. We can either comment this out, so you could say in Atom, you could say command / that will comment it out, or you could just delete it altogether if you're feeling adventurous, which I am today. So save that, go back to your Chrome, refresh, and oh my god, it's gone. Next one, let's move this sign out thing here. I don't even know why they put a sign out thing there. What were they thinking? I have not a clue. Not that I'm any better a designer than the people who designed this app. I'm just saying I have no idea why it's there. I've never ever used it. So we're going to get rid of it. We can see this is in a dev class called nav. So we'll find nav. Oh my god, it's there. Right, straight away. Image title, user avatar. Well, I'm guessing that's the user avatar. Class logout button. I reckon that's the logout button. But yeah, that's obviously the logout button. No idea how I'll work that one out. And in div class nav, we're now going to put in some lovely bookmarks. So we're going to say a ref is equal to, what do I always struggle to find and get to? Oh yes, Japanese Google. Never can get to that. I always forget. Japanese Google.co.uk.co.jp, and then we're going to say Japanese Google. Always need to be going on Japanese Google. Then go back to Chrome again, refresh the page. The user avatar, the logout button's gone, and instead we have Japanese Google, which is way more useful than a logout button for this app. And we're on Japanese Google. There we go. Cool. So go down to Love Wunderlist. Yeah, it's alright. It's alright. But I'm getting rid of that button. I could do some other stuff with it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with that, but let's find it out. So after pressing Command F, typing in love, we found Love Wunderlist. Just get rid of this. We can swap it out for a normal link. So let's say a ref. I don't know. We'll go to the English. I'm going to be boring. We're going to go to the English one. Say hello. Obviously, you can put whatever you want here. You don't have to put the UK Google. You can put whatever you like. I'm not being a Nazi. I'm not telling you what to do. But, you know, there we are. That will work. Come back to Chrome. And down here, in very small letters, it says hello. You can change it to whatever you like. Next, we're going to change this little label here where it says, hi Shane, what do you want to do? Although it doesn't actually say that. It says, hi shaneleephoto.gmail.com. What do you want to do? We're going to change that. There are two places you can change this. So you can either go to app.js and just change the name, which would be sort of pointless. Or you can go to langdata.js, which is in the Wunder folder, then the JS folder. We're going to open that with Atom. And you will be met with a load of Arabic. I think that's Arabic. The way we're going to do this is we're going to say find. I'm going to say we'll find that. So this is the label, new tab, task input. Here, this bit here where it has the % sign and the @ sign, that is swapped out to your user ID, or username actually. But if we just swap this whole thing out, this whole string, we can have it say whatever we want it to say. So we could say, for example, get to the chopper. So we can have it say that. Let's refresh. It says get to the chopper. So already we've made quite a lot of progress. The next thing we are going to do is add the quotes. Oakley dokley, in order to get the quotes and the authors of the quotes above the app over here, we're going to need to add a little bit more spicy code. We're going to add some JavaScript. We're going to get the quotes from a JSON file, which I will provide. You get your own quotes. You can do what you like. I'll give you the basic idea. You can modify, hack, bodge, do whatever. Is what we're doing to this Wunderlist application now, but you can add your own spicy flavor to it. So let's go to the index file, and we're going to find where it says div id equals app, and above that we're going to add a h4 and we're going to add a h6. Why h4 and h6? I don't know. That's what I've decided to add, so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to add some custom styling to these as well. call this one quote of the class quote, and we're going to put in there nothing. We're just going to leave it blank. My God, Shane, you are wild. I know. H6 is the one we're going to do next, and all quotes need to have an author. I've forgotten to put ID there because I'm an absolute buffoon. So we're going to do that again. Author. Oh my days. And we are also going to give it the class author. There we go. And again, are we going to put the author in there? No, we're just going to keep it blank. Oh my God, this is crazy. I'm also going to put a break there just because it gives it us a nice gap and I can't be bothered to do it with CSS. So if we refresh the page now, guess what we're going to see? Diddly squat, etc. The app has moved down ever so slightly, and that's because we've just put the break there. So the break has pushed it down. So the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create some spicy JavaScript. For this, go up to the top of the HTML document in the head section, copy one of these things that say script, and we are going to swap out where it's with the thing we just copied, and we're going to give it a name. Let's say quote loader.js. Wow, that was a creative name. I can't believe I just came out with that. And what I'm going to do is go to JS, go to wundertab.js, copy it, and then we're going to call it quote loader.js. Open this with Atom and just get rid of all that. We don't need any of it whatsoever. And we're going to start doing some stuff. We're also going to need to get the quotes.json file. I have that over here. We're going to pop that there, just in the Wunderlist directory itself, so you can see what it looks like. We have JSON file, we have a JSON object here, quotes, we have quote Anthony Bourdain, author Anthony Bourdain, quote author Epicurus, author. This is just many quotes in a JSON file. If you don't understand JSON files, don't worry too much about it. It's just like a text database. Is a real simple way of thinking about it. They're really easy to work with. But we've got that now. So we'll go back to our quote loader.js and we're going to say, we're going to create a function. We're going to call it load JSON. I reckon that's a pretty good name. You have to create a request. New HTTP request. Oh, he's a bit rusty, the old boy is over here. Var request URL. I did get this code from somewhere originally when I originally put this in there. So I'm just trying to remember everything now. Quotes.json. That double dot thing we did there just takes us one directory out. Remember, this file, quote loader, is in JS. So that double dot is going to take us from here to here. So it's going to say, look for the quotes file in this directory, the directory above the directory where the file currently is. So that's a common thing that beginners or people like me get wrong, and they wonder why the quotes weren't loading. It's because they didn't actually specify the path correctly. Next thing you need to do, request.open. I'm going to say it's get request URL, and then specify the response type. So response type. I do make some funny noises on a code. There, then we're going to say request. Oh my days. Send. Then we need to say, basically, we need to have like we need to say what happens when we've actually got it. This is asynchronous, if I pronounce that correctly. So it's a function. Say var quotes is equal to the request response. All this means is we're going to get the JSON file, and we're going to put the JSON file into an object or a variable called quotes. The next thing we're going to do as well, from this, once it's loaded, we're going to then call a function which we haven't created yet, and we're going to call it getQuote. Wow, this is again creative, but the first thing we need to do as well, when we load the file, we need to say load JSON. Because what's going to happen here is we're going to load, when the file loads, we're going to load JSON, then we're going to go all the way through this. When the function loads the JSON file, puts it into quotes, it's then going to call this getQuote function, which we're going to create now. Call it getQuote. We're going to call what we passed JSON just for ease. We're going to say var quotes is equal to JSON.quotes. And the reason for that is, if we remember when we go back to the quotes file, this bit here is called quotes. So all you have to do, like let's say we called it types or something like that, for whatever bloody reason, it would be JSON.types, because we're passing JSON. So we've got the quotes here, get passed here. When they get to this function, they're called JSON. So it's type JSON.types. But we're going to keep it as quotes just because it makes way more sense. But things don't always have to make sense. Right. Next thing what we need to do is we basically need to pick a random quote. So I'm going to say this, var quote. I'm just going to call it this for just to keep it separate from what's going to happen in a minute. I'm going to say math.floor math.random. Okay, then we're going to times it by the quotes length minus 1. Yes, minus 1. And then plus 0. Basically, what all that does is generates a random number and gets the quote. So basically, if you look here, we have all this function in here. If I take it out for a moment and I put in quotes 1, we would get the second quote, because this is index 0. It'll be this quote here we would get. But all we're doing, instead of putting that 1 there, the actual integer value, we're putting in this code which will generate a random integer value based on the length of the array. So if you have 1,000,000 things in the array, it will generate one that could be from 0 to 1,000,000. With the quote author, we're going to say var quote author, and we don't have to actually do anything. All we do is we say quotes object, because we're not returning the quote with that with this function. We are returning both the quote and the author because they're in like an individual thing here. So we say quote.author, and then we say var quote is equal to quote object.author .quote. Yes, of course. And then we could even print it if we wanted to. So we could console log it if we wanted to check, but we're going to see it anyway. So the next thing we'll do, I'm going to create another function. We're going to call it function print quote. You should really always have functions that only do one thing, so it makes code easier to sort of manage. We're going to pass in the quote author, as you would well guess, and we're going to pass in the quote. You could also have just passed in this quote object and then done this bit of code down here, or you don't even have to call the variables. You could literally say quote object.author, quote object.quote. It doesn't really matter too much. It's just so you can sort of see what we're doing here and sort of understand the code. Remember how when we went to the index we created these, the H4 and the H2, because I didn't want to create a H1 and H2, whatever. It doesn't really matter what we created here. What we're doing is we are going to get the ID here, right, of quote, and we're going to fill it on load with the quote and the author. So we're going to say document get element by ID. This is called JavaScript DOM, by the way, if anyone wants to know what this bit is, where we are basically dynamically introducing code, HTML code to the page as we load. That might not be the best explanation, but hey ho. Document get element by ID, and we're going to say author because that's what the ID is. If you remember, like I just showed you, the ID is author, quote and author. So we're getting those and we're going to load them with the quote and author. Wow, this is surprising. We're learning many things today. And what did I call it? I called it quote author. And guess what I haven't done, as you speedy people might see, I haven't actually called it, put them in the function. So what this now do, this will now should, if we refresh the Wunderlist thing, it's just loaded a quote. It's very small though, so we need to do a few little things to just change the old style. So for that, we're going to be using the old CSS. This is going to be quite simple. Go back to index and go all the way to the top. We're going to create a new style sheet. So copy one of the style sheets and we're going to call it, I don't know, quote style. Yes, and let's have a looky look. Okay, so we're going to create quote style now. Go to your Finder, go to CSS, copy one of these. It doesn't matter which one, pick any. Your choice is yours. You have free will, unless you don't think you have free will, but you probably do have free will. Maybe not, somewhat determined. Here we go, quote loader. That's not what I called it. I called it quote style. I'm losing my mind. Not that I ever had it ever all time at all. Yep, quote style, that's what I called it. Good. Open that again with your text editor of choice. Get rid of all that, we don't need it. I'm going to say H4 and I'm going to give it a font family. We are font family. George is a nice one, and then Times New Roman in case for whatever reason we can't get Georgia, then Times, then serif. Where really what this is basically doing is it's saying load Georgia. If Georgia isn't there, load Times New Roman. If Times New Roman isn't there, load Times. If Times isn't there, just load a serif font. For God's sake, load a serif font. Font size, I think 1.7 EM will be best. Probably something around there. Margin bottom, what did I have? 1 EM. Font weight, normal. We could go a little bit higher. Let's go normal, which means we literally don't need to put that in there. Color, make sure it's, we're going to do white. Line height, this is quite important because it makes it easier to read with this quote. We'll say text align, center. Okay. Let's do the same thing again for H6. And I'm aware I probably could do this code a bit better. Instead of having this, we're going to say Lucidia Grande. Lucidia Grande and Tahoma. I want the author to be smaller. We want the font weight to be lighter. We don't. Yes, lighter. Let's do lighter. Font. Text transform. We're going to do a text transform. We're going to make it uppercase. Why? It just looks cooler. I think for the author, it just would look better. Keep that as that. Oh, we're going to have a margin at the top as well, because we want a nice gap. I mean, we could just make the margin of the bottom one bigger. For some reason, I'm deciding I'm going to put this in pixels and we're going to put these in EM. Inconsistent code. This is a big no-no. But, yeah, whatever. You only live once. Write terrible code. This is the advice I'm giving. Okay, there we go. That style should be loaded. There we go. That looks pretty good. Got a nice little quote from Winston Churchill there. It looks quite nice. Next thing to do is add the death countdown if you like. Okay, in order to be terribly, terribly stoic about this and put in the number of days we have remaining upon this mortal coil on the new tab page, which we have just hacked together in a jingle jangle fashion, we're going to use the moment.js library, which parses, validates, manipulates, and displays dates and times in JavaScript. You can read more at momentjs.com. Now, we would normally have to just download either moment.js or moment with locales.js and then load it into the file, which is a laborious process, and we have to copy the script out and put in the script tags and do all that to index HTML, but it's already in the Wunderlist new tab page. So what we need to do, because it's right here, make sure it is the top script though, because if you have it as the under lang data, which is the script we're going to use to call moment, it won't actually realize that it's been loaded because the lang data will be loaded before moment. So just make sure moment's the top, just save yourself a lot of time. Okay, let's go to langdata.js, which you will find in JS, in the JS folder, and then lang data, but we've already opened it, so you might already have it open. And we're going to replace where it says get to the chopper, we're going to replace that with saying something like you have number of days remaining. So let's do that now. So we're going to say let top label, we're going to say you have space plus, and we're going to have a function called death countdown space and then days remaining. That doesn't look right, but okay. Then we're going to create that function which has to return the number of days we have remaining upon this mortal coil. So let's do that. We don't have to pass any arguments. We're going to first create a variable and we're going to call it death date, and we have to say moment, pass in the argument or the value which is the date of our death, which I've worked out to be 2075 of March 20 on the 28th. I've used averages to work that out. There we go. Then we're going to say var today is equal to moment. We don't really need to actually add this today variable. It just makes the code a little bit easier to read later on when you come back and go, what was I thinking? Was I on drugs? I have no idea. So we're going to say death date.diff today. We're saying days, and then we're going to say to locale string, I'm going to pass in en. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it easy to read for how we want to do it. So it's going to add the comma in where we want it. So we don't have to do the comma. And then we're going to go to where we've found the chopper before, which is label new task input. And we're going to say top label. And if I go back here, refresh it, we now have 20,511 days remaining. Wonderful. So we have now finished the new tab hacking together, or at least for this video. So all that remains is to say thank you for watching, and I hope this video has been a
great success.
See you later.